This
Thank
is
you.
a rented property or you've bought this?
Yes.
And what's the typical rental?
4 to 5.5 lakhs a month.
When are you planning to buy your house?
I in fact just bought one last month.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So,
Congratulations.
Thank
कितना बड़ा घर है वो? How many square feet?
So 2,500 स्क्वायर फीट कुछ है.
Okay. मैं just ऐसे रफ मैथ कर रहा हूँ. यहाँ पर एरियाज रेट से अराउंड 60,000 to 70,000 पर स्क्वायर फीट. तो 2,500 के हिसाब से वो हो गया 12 से 15 करोड़ के आसपास. आई एम जस्ट डूइंग अ रफ मैथ.
Somewhat, yeah.
What would be like one craziest thing that you would have done in your life?
Do you share your credit card pin with anyone? My credit card pins are with my maid and my cook and my driver.
That's scary now. How much time did it take for you to make your first rupees 1 crore and how much time did it take for you to make the next rupees 1 crore?
8 years it took me to get to that number. And after that it's been like compounding fairly quickly.
How much of your wealth is divided into which kind of asset class when it comes to managing money?
About 40 to 50% of my wealth is invested in startups.
What is the highest amount of return you have made?
5x in 11 months.
11 months में कौन सा stock था ये? How much money you have lost?
More than a crore.
What is the scale of your startup right now?
So we sell close to...
Hi Saket, welcome to Conversation with Kushal. How are you doing?
Awesome, how are you?
All good, all good. फर्स्टली तो मेरे को ये पूछना है कि आपकी जो ये प्रॉपर्टी आपका एक घर है इट्स लाइक ब्यूटीफुल. मेरे को तो एकदम ये क्वेश्चन आता है आपका व्यू में जब देख रहा था बालकनी से. इट्स जस्ट अमेजिंग. आप दिन में बालकनी में कितने बार जाते हो वो बता दो पहले तो.
Unfortunately, you know, the balcony is so amazing and every time we go there, we're like, okay, why don't we hang out here more enough? But during COVID, it was the best thing that could have happened because in COVID, the only place you could hang out was a balcony and we were lucky to have this in our property.
Right. No, I mean, I loved the view. एकदम काफ़ी सही लग रहा है, like on the 44th floor right now. This is a rented property or you've bought this?
Yes, it's rented.
Okay. And what's the typical rentals of these properties here?
So it ranges between 4 to 5.5 lakhs a month.
Okay. And what is the area of this flat?
About 2,000 square feet.
Got it. एंड यहाँ पे मतलब आने के बाद हाउ हैज़ योर माइंडसेट चेंज? आप कभी आए यहाँ पे लाइक कितने साल हो गए?
5 साल हो गए.
अच्छा. एंड आप 5 साल से रेंट पे रह रहे हो?
यस.
ये सेम फ्लैट?
यस.
ओके. एंड व्हेन आर यू प्लानिंग टू बाय योर हाउस?
I in fact just bought one last month.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
कहाँ पे है ये?
It's in the same building.
Okay.
It's on the 52nd floor. And yeah, super excited about it.
Wow. And आप क्या कितने 32, 33 हो right?
I'm 34.
34.
Yes.
Wow. And you've bought your own house in Mumbai.
Yes.
That's amazing. यहाँ पर तो rates तो बहुत skyrocket हो रहे हैं. But that's so amazing. And कितना बड़ा घर है वो? How many square feet?
So 2,500 square feet कुछ है.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a nice house with a good view.
Got it.
And you know, good vibe most importantly.
Yeah, of course, that's very important. मैं just ऐसे rough math कर रहा हूँ. यहाँ पर areas rate से around 60,000 to 70,000 per square feet. तो 2,500 के हिसाब से वो हो गया 12 से 15 करोड़ के आसपास. I'm just doing a rough math.
Somewhat, yeah.
No, but very, very nice. I mean, that's so like a proud feeling. Young person like 34 who's buying their house in Bombay. Bombay आने के बाद life कैसे change हुई? And ये vicinity में आने के बाद mindset कैसे change हुआ?
So I have a philosophy that you're the average of 5 people you're surrounded by. So जब मैं बॉम्बे आया, it was literally like a move कि अब बस shift होना है बॉम्बे. मैं कैलकाटा से literally decided कि एक दिन आना है and I packed my bags and I came here. And just the energy of the people, like everyone's driven to do something. They're very hungry to do work. You know, whether you meet a chai wala here or a billionaire, everyone's curious to learn and do things. And that really got me into a mindset of कि कुछ बड़ा करना है. Because every time you see someone, they are always shooting at the moon. So that mindset really helped me set up my business here and give me a lot of motivation to keep, you know, working hard on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I also stay nearby and मैं जब यहाँ पे shift हुआ, I think it's been 2.5 years now जहाँ पे मैं shift हुआ लोअर परेल में. एंड माइंडसेट एकदम अलग ही हो गया था मेरा. लाइक आई मेट सो मेनी सक्सेसफुल पीपल एंड आई एम 25 राइट नाउ. सो आई वाज 23 व्हेन आई शिफ्टेड देयर. सो ऐसे मैंने जॉब छोड़ा. दैट वाज आल्सो वन ऑफ द रीजंस बिकॉज आई स्टार्टेड स्टेइंग देयर. एंड वहाँ पे इतने एंटरप्रेन्योर्स और इतने ड्राइविंग पीपल है, तो मेरे को भी लगा कि चलो यार कुछ तो भी खुद का स्टार्ट करते हैं, and खुद में मतलब कोई पोटेंशियल तो है कि खुद कुछ ना कुछ कर लेंगे. एंड सेकेंडली लाइक ऑल ऑफ देम आर सो हेल्पफुल. कुछ भी अगर कनेक्ट चाहिए मुझे तो आई एम जस्ट अ मैसेज अवे फ्रॉम एनी वन. देर आर लाइक 400-500 पीपल ऑन अ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप एंड यू जस्ट नीड एनी हेल्प, बी इट एज सिंपल हेल्प एज कि मेरे को इससे कनेक्ट करवा दो, ये कंपनी में किसी से कनेक्ट करवा दो, 2 मिनट में काम हो जाता है. सो दैट हैज़ हेल्प मी अ लॉट एंड माइंडसेट पूरा मेरा तो चेंज हो गया था जब मैं यहाँ पे शिफ्ट हुआ था.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the power of Bombay. People are genuinely rooting for your success.
Yeah.
Like when I said my first interaction, I was in an elevator. I met Mr. Hiranandani.
Okay.
मैं JM Financial के office में गया था किसी meeting के लिए, and then he was also entering the elevator while we were leaving. And then I didn't know who he was, and we just started talking. I told him this is what I do in technology, and he just got super excited. He was curious. He's like, "Beta, this is my number. Come and meet me." And at that time, I was 26. So that was such a boost that a person who's already got so much in his life, he's like crushing it. He's still very curious to learn from a 26-year-old. And that I saw as a pattern in Bombay, that every single person you meet who has made it in life is very humble and very driven and very curious as an individual.
Yeah. So my interaction with him, I remember, so I hosted him on my podcast couple of years back, and he is so curious even at this age. So he is 72 or 73 right now. एंड ही सेज दिस ब्यूटीफुली बाय द वे. तो उनको मैंने पूछा कि आप रिटायर कब होना चाहते हो, तो वो बोलते हैं कि आई डोंट वांट टू रिटायर, आई वांट टू रीटायर एज इन TYRE वाला. सो आई वांट टू जस्ट कीप री इन्वेंटिंग एंड री इनोवेटिंग एंड आई नेवर वांट टू रिटायर. सो दैट वाज समथिंग विच जस्ट स्टेड इन माई माइंड, दैट अ पर्सन ऑफ हिज स्टेचर ऑल्सो डजंट थिंक अबाउट रिटायरमेंट बट ऑलवेज थिंक्स अबाउट कॉन्स्टेंट इनोवेशन एंड क्यूरियोसिटी. तो मतलब ये तो काफ़ी इंस्पायरिंग स्टोरीज है. तो चलो आपकी जर्नी के बारे में बात करते हैं. सो लाइक लेट्स टॉक अबाउट योर CA जर्नी. वी गॉट टू नो यूर अ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट एंड आप कुछ एकदम अनकन्वेंशनल कर रहे हो. बहुत अच्छा लगता है जब CA फ्रेटर्निटी से कोई एकदम अनकन्वेंशनल कर रहा है, बिकॉज बहुत सारे CA लोग लाइक इवन यू वुड अग्री राइट, लाइक दे एंड अप गेटिंग इनटू ट्रेडिशनल टैक्सेशन ऑडिटिंग रोल्स या तो प्रैक्टिस वगैरह करते हैं, बट आपके जैसे कोई अनकन्वेंशनल कर रहा है. तो फर्स्टली आपने कैसे सोचा कि यू वांट टू टेक अ प्लंज इनटू एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, एंड देन वील टॉक मोर अबाउट योर एंटरप्रेन्योरियल गिग्स एज वेल.
I mean, the reality is that if given a choice, I would have never wanted to do CA. Okay. I just did CA because everyone around me did CA. I grew up in Calcutta, and Calcutta is a land of chartered accountants. Not only did I do CA, I also did CS because that was a good degree to add. You know, half your degrees in CS is done if you have CA. It's common syllabus. And after I finished it, I went on to do some work in and around that. In fact, I worked in a firm for a week, and then I was let go.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
What's
very
that story?
politely.
What's
I
that
was
story
given
about?
a 2,000 rupee check by the founder of the firm, and he said, like, you know, maybe it's not a good fit. And I worked there. It was literally like a week.
Okay.
And
So
then
you were getting what, 8,000 per month there?
Yes, actually there was no salary decided. It was more like, you know, he just gave me whatever he thought I deserved at that point. And in that whole experience, when I did experiment, made a lot of effort to find a job. In fact, I worked in ITC for a day. Somewhere, you know, my CV was great, my communication skills were great, but I was just not landing a CA job, despite having a very good profile. And then the learning was that I actually don't enjoy it, right? After that, I started evaluating, okay, what could be different options I could explore. And one of them was a food venture, because I had made a bunch of friends, you know, in college who were very creative on doing different things. And then the idea of a vada pav chain came into picture. So my college senior is the founder of Momo, Sagar Terani. So we used to spend a lot of time through some, you know, forums. And then I was like, should I launch something called Aao Pao, a vada pav chain in Calcutta? Eventually, we named it as Aao Pao Khao. And the idea was to launch a very, you know, like a multi-flavor vada pav chain, including non-veg vada pav. Worked on it for a year. The model didn't make sense, so I dropped it.
तो ये आपने CA के बाद शुरू किया था?
CA के बाद शुरू किया.
ओके, तो आपने कभी जॉब किया ही नहीं है मतलब CA के बाद, वो एक हफ्ते के अलावा?
No, in fact, I was close to getting a job in a venture capital fund,
okay,
which I was very excited about. But then when they offered me that salary, द पे दे वर ऑफरिंग मी, आई फेल्ट लाइक ये तो अभी मैं ऐसे ही कमा रहा हूँ इससे ज़्यादा.
कितना ऑफर कर रहे थे वो लोग?
I think it was about 15-20 lakhs a year.
ओके.
And that time,
एंड आप कैसे कमा रहे थे ये?
so I used to run a marketing firm as well
ओके.
on the side, which was like we would be designing brochures, logos, websites for all the top builders in Patna and Guwahati. So I was making much more than that. So I was like, why should I do a job when I'm making more money SE? So I dropped that piece. And yeah, so one thing led to the other, and eventually I realized that I never enjoyed sitting on a desk and doing accounting, auditing, taxation work. That was not my calling. My calling was going out there, meeting people, being creative.
गॉट इट. तो आपने फिर ये मार्केटिंग एजेंसी जो है वो कितने साल चलाई?
So वो मैंने 3 या 4 साल चलाई.
ओके.
उसमें अच्छे पैसे बनते थे. मतलब हर साल 30 से 40 लाख रुपए की प्रॉफिट आ जाती थी.
अच्छा, प्रॉफिट.
हाँ.
ओह वाओ. एंड यू वर द
I was
ओनली
the only
शेयर होल्डर?
guy
ओके.
running the scene. And yeah, I mean it was like कि एक client ने दूसरे client से recommend किया, and then it was a very lucrative business.
तो वो क्यों बंद किया या तो छोड़ दिया?
Because मुझे उसमें बहुत बड़ा future नहीं दिखा. I didn't see it becoming like the Ogilvy of India. And at some point, I was not able to associate myself doing that for a long period of time.
गॉट इट. एंड देन फिर ये आओ पाओ खाओ ये वाला आपने कब शुरू किया था? ये मार्केटिंग एजेंसी के बाद या
It
उसके
was
पहले?
somewhat in parallel.
अच्छा, दोनों साथ में
दोनों
शुरू
साथ
किए
में ही
थे.
था. वड़ा पाव वॉज माई कोर फोकस एट दैट टाइम कि मुझे ये करना ही है. तो मैंने एक साल बहुत जी जान लगा के आई गॉट मेंटोर्स लाइक द KFC इंडिया हेड शेफ टू हेल्प मी, ITC इंडिया हेड शेफ टू हेल्प मी, लाइक ऑल दीज पीपल वर बिकॉज आई वॉज अ किड. सो बहुत हेल्प मिली.
तो इन लोगों ने अग्री कैसे किया आपको मेंटोरशिप देने के लिए? एंड हाउ डिड यू रीच आउट टू दीस पीपल? यू न्यू देम
सो
पहले से?
मैं ITC में आई वॉज जस्ट देयर फॉर समथिंग एंड आई मेट द bumped into the chef and just asked him कि ये मैं कर रहा हूँ, I need some help, can you guide me? And he was like yeah sure. So that's how we just got started.
My God, what are you saying?
So it was
I can't
literally
believe
just
this.
going and asking for it. There was no logic. And one thing led to the other.
Got it. So what happened with Aao Pao Khao? उसका क्या हुआ फिर?
So model में model didn't make too much sense, largely क्योंकि the perceived value of a vada pav is not beyond say 50 to 100 rupees. And problem क्या होता है उसमें कि जब आप एक QSR chain लगा रहे हो, you need a certain location, certain cost to run it, and the rentals are very high.
Can you
for heavy
explain
footfall.
what is a QSR chain to the audience?
So quick service restaurant. So in fact, Aao Pao Khao was Aao Pao Khao Jao, like quick service.
Okay.
So basically, all these kiosks, like 250 square feet, 100 square feet. Wow Momo is a very popular chain, or there are so many popular chains in India. So the idea was that every day you go and you have, there's a counter, people go place a order, and every time you go आपको एक consistently within 2 minutes में same taste, same quality वड़ा पाव मिलेगा, right? That was the whole idea. And there will be a central kitchen जहाँ पे we will actually prepare the base vadas and the pavs, ship it to the chains, and वहाँ पे वो लोग फिनिश करके असेंबल करके आपको डिलीवर करेंगे. सो दैट वाज द थिंग. बट वड़ा पाव से क्या हुआ कि इंडिया में जैसे हम अगर कुछ इंडियन प्रोडक्ट बेचते हैं तो उसका परसीव्ड वैल्यू बहुत कम होता है. समोसा और वड़ा पाव कैन बी 2 एग्जाम्पल्स. अगर आप समोसा एंड फ्रेंच फ्राइज कैन बी 2 एग्जाम्पल्स. सो फ्रेंच फ्राइज का एक प्राइस कितना होता होगा आपके हिसाब से एवरी टाइम यू गो एनी वेयर?
I think 90-100 rupees.
90, 100 or 200 rupees. It can range depending on where you go.
And मैंने मेरे बिल्डिंग के रेस्टोरेंट में खाया था तो 100 रुपए का मिलता है हमारे वहाँ.
हाँ बिल्डिंग में. बट अगर आप मैकडोनल्ड्स में जाओ 100 रुपए से चालू होता है. एंड एनीवेयर एल्स यू गो मिनिमम लाइक 150-200 bucks. एंड समोसा का क्या प्राइस होगा?
समोसा का 20 से 30 रुपए होना चाहिए.
बट अगर आप सोचो मेहनत किस में बनती है बनाने में ज़्यादा, फ्रेंच फ्राइज में कि समोसे में?
समोसा में. हाँ
naturally,
मतलब
right?
या फ्रेंच फ्राइज तो मतलब वो तो एक
बस आलू
यही है.
काटा, फ्राई किया,
हाँ
and done. And
करेक्ट.
samosa takes much more
या
effort. It's an art to make, but samosa is like 1/5 the price
हाँ
of French
फ्रेंच
fries,
फ्राइज.
because French fries is perceived as a French or American product, which was what the problem was with the vada pav chain. So we were never able to imagine selling a vada pav for 200 रुपया 300 रुपया, and the rentals economics did not make sense, and one day I just realized कि ये मॉडल चलेगा ही नहीं, तो मैंने
गॉट इट.
ड्रॉप कर दिया.
सो आपने फिर वड़ा पाव चेन देन यू लॉस्ट योर टाइम 1 year ऑफ योर टाइम एंड देन मार्केटिंग एजेंसी वॉज देयर फॉर 3 years. तो फिर मार्केटिंग एजेंसी क्विट करने के बाद व्हाट डिड यू डू आफ्टर वो 2014 में यू क्विट द मार्केटिंग एजेंसी.
Yeah, I wouldn't say lost my time. It always seems like that, but it was, I think, a lot of learning. I learned how to hustle. It gave me a lot of confidence that if you just put your mind to anything, you can figure it out eventually. Because in that 1 year, I learned everything about the food business. उससे ये भी actually बहुत respect आया food business वालों के ऊपर. Because although it seems कि बहुत easy है चलाना, but food is one of the hardest businesses to be in. Um, but anyway, after that stint of running these two businesses, I was figuring out कि क्या करना है. तो one way that I solved was कि मैं जितने भी startup events and conferences होता था सब में जाता था. Again coming from the average of 5 people you're surrounded by, I just decided that I want to be around the best people कि कुछ ना कुछ learning आएगी and I'll be able to do something that will come out of it.
तो उसके बाद लाइक व्हाट्स द स्टोरी देन डिड यू स्टार्ट समथिंग एल्स और व्हाट हैपेंड.
Yeah. उस टाइम स्टोरी यही थी कि मुझे पता नहीं था मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ. तो मैं लोगों से मिलता था just to hear what they are doing in life. And one day I just got lucky. I met a gentleman from the Israeli Consulate, Mr. Tejinder Singh, and he works with the Israeli Consulate.
कहाँ पे मिले थे आप.
एक CII के इवेंट में मिला था मैं, एंड वहीं पे पता चला कि इजराइल बोल के कंट्री है, एंड लिटरली मेरी ज्योग्राफी बहुत वीक है तो
और आपका ट्विटर हैंडल इज द इजरायली गाय नाउ.
या योर इजराइल का
ओह योर इजरायल गाय.
सो पता चला कि इजराइल इज अ कंट्री एंड दे हैव अमेजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी, a battery that charges in 5 minutes, a suit that can make someone on the wheelchair stand up and walk again, or milk without cows. So ये सब सुन के बहुत एक्साइटमेंट हो गई. तो फिर मैं सोचा कि why don't I help identify some companies in Israel that could solve problems that Indian companies face. And that's how my whichever number company started, Onnivation. And yeah, that's where we are. Yes.
सो इसमें अभी लाइक योर मॉडल इज बेसिकली कि इसराइल के जो कंपनीज है या तो स्टार्टअप्स है उनको इंडियन कंपनीज जो एग्जिस्टिंग इंडियन कंपनीज है वो कैसे इनके सर्विसेज लेवरेज कर सकती है.
Somewhat yes, but
Okay.
basically अभी हमने we've curated we've created a very high-end curated marketplace for SaaS companies. So अगर आप Zomato हो या Paytm हो या Lenskart or an Axis Bank, all these are different businesses, but we saw that every industry they have a common set of tech problems. Cyber security में, data science में, cloud, marketing automation, app experience. So we saw that companies in Israel and also in the Bay Area, they have amazing technologies that are solving those pointed problems. But when a CIO of a bank has to solve that problem, he has to go and talk to multiple people, multiple vendors, do multiple demos and POCs. So we've curated the best cloud security company, best QA product, best data science company, brought it under one roof. And like how you have a trusted wealth advisor or a doctor or a tax consultant who tells you buy this stock, take this medicine, or this is how you structure your tax. That's how we are positioned to the large conglomerates in India who buy a lot of SaaS companies or innovative solutions through us to transform their entire journey.
And what would be the scale of your startup right now?
So we sell close to 100 crores worth of, plus minus something softwares in India, some in the US now.
Got
And
it.
yeah,
Yep. And how big is the team?
we are about 25 people.
Got it.
Yeah.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. मैं मतलब ये ऐसे किसी को देखा नहीं ये आइडिया करते हुए. तो कोई कंपटीशन में होगा ऐसा, या लाइक यू आर द ओनली वन?
There are always competitors. I think हमने the way we've done our storytelling, the proposition, the curation of our products, and most importantly, the love and the brand value we've gotten from our customers. That has been monumental. Like हमने we never positioned ourselves as someone who's a software distributor.
Right.
Our tagline is enabling the enablers, which meant for us, which means a lot. Whenever a client has a tech problem, it is not always कि उनको एक tool से solve हो जाएगी. It could be hiring someone. It could be just talking to a peer in the industry to get some learnings. So हम बहुत कुछ कराते हैं. We've taken our clients, the C-level execs of our companies, of our customers to Israel for study tours. We've organized learning sessions where we would get a celebrity CTO or a CISO from a large company in the US or in Israel to speak to a company in India or vice versa. We've even helped our customers hire tech leaders because sometimes, they only can start their change if they have the right people. And we know case company may, this is a skill set they need, and because of our customer base, we know who could be a right fit. So we do a lot of value add to our customers, which helps us enable them. So our thesis is ki, all the startups and tech companies in India are enablers to the ecosystem, and we are enabling them.
Yeah. No, that's a very good way of saying, and very impressive about the skill that you have built in the last 6-7 years. कितना 6-7 years करके हुआ?
Yeah, about 8 years.
8 years.
Yes.
Right. That's very impressive. इसमें मतलब आपकी जर्नी से ये सीखने मिल रहा है कि लाइक नेटवर्किंग एंड इवेंट्स वगैरह में जाना वगैरह, दैट इज़ वेरी अंडररेटेड इन टुडेज वर्ल्ड, एंड दैट इज समथिंग विच पीपल शुड फोकस ऑन, इज़ व्हाट आई ऑल्सो सेंस. एंड like you are also very passionate about all these organizing events and all of that because of your past background. So one thing which I've also learned from you is how do you network and how do you reach out to these people? जैसे आपने बताया, you just went to that KFC India guy and then you told I am building this, please help me, and he was on board. Similarly with the other person as well. तो इसमें networking के types, like what is your hack or what is your one pro tip which has helped you in order to reach out to new people, start a conversation, build relationships with them? Because a lot of CAs also, and even like other people, they are not very good when it comes to communication or networking. So what has worked for you?
So let me start by saying that networking is always perceived as an activity of taking versus activity of giving. And I think that's a fundamental, learning that I've had over the years. So whenever we think of networking, we're like, okay, if I meet a certain person, the first thing I'm going to do is either try to sell something to them. The first thing I'm going to do is attempt to sell something to them or ask for a favor or an introduction. The way I solved for this myself was look at it as a very long-term relationship, and I said, can I give something to the person I'm meeting, right? And it's always harder to imagine that you meet, say, a CEO of a multinational bank at an event. What could you give to them? And then it could be something as basic as a compliment, right? I remember I'd met the CEO of Flipkart at an event, and I saw that everybody was surrounding him and saying, okay, this is my card, can you, we run a warehousing company, can you become a customer? Everyone was just selling to him. And when I went, I just said, I'm a happy customer, right? And he just lit up. He was so happy, like no one told me this in this event.
Yeah.
So usse hamari ice break ho gaye. And then he asked, what do you do? So when you create a situation where someone is curious enough to spend time with you, ask you a question, then you immediately break the ice and start a relationship. To an extent, मैंने डिसाइड किया कि मैं कभी किसी को अपना कार्ड खुद से नहीं दूंगा जब तक वो मांगे नहीं. बिकॉज जब आप कार्ड किसी को देते हो अपना एक इवेंट पे, अब तो मैं कार्ड रखना ही बंद कर दिया, बट जब आप किसी को कार्ड देते हो, देर आर 50 people who are giving their visiting cards to the same guy and he doesn't remember. बट अगर वो खुद से मांगता है तो उसको हमेशा याद रहेगा कि मैं इस इंटरेस्टिंग बंदे से मिला था. सो when he reviews those cards after going back, he'll always remember and have a memory.
Yeah.
Right? So to summarize, I would say कि it should be about giving more long term, and the belief system that you have something to give to the person, and not just take from that person, no matter who that person is.
Yeah, no, that's a very good piece of advice. I also resonate with it because I do these no agenda catch ups in my building and even in like with a lot of people. So I mean the agenda is nothing, just to know each other, and there is no monetary benefit which is involved right away. But I don't know. I mean in the future that person can be of help to me, but I'm not going with that mindset कि हाँ इससे कुछ ना कुछ मेरे को निकलवाना ही है. It's just like एक meeting कर लो, just you get to know a lot of perspectives of other people, how they deal with life, etc. And that is my main thing of networking. Like a lot of people, I post on LinkedIn by the way that whenever I meet someone, what I learn from them, and people call me यार तू इतना networking कैसे करता है? How do you reach out to these people? That's the simple thing, as you also mentioned. मतलब these people, they don't want anything in return as such. They are just there to help you if you approach in the right manner. One thing which have worked with me also is that if you be very crisp with your ask whenever you're reaching out, let's say not in an event, but if you want to reach out to someone, you just be very crisp and clear, and your agenda is very clear and all. Matlab in the sense you want something and you want some guidance and all, they will most probably reply if your way of approaching is very professional. At least that is what I have experienced.
No, absolutely. In fact, if I were to just give you my sense on LinkedIn, for instance, I think on LinkedIn, when you're professionally reaching out to someone, your message has to be the most direct and most crisp possible. There you can't have rosy conversations like very nice to meet you, I'm so inspired by your story, this, that, because any professional, I'm sure it's the same with you and many people, like most of the CEOs, they receive hundreds of messages on LinkedIn every month, and it's crazy. If someone just sent you a message, it was very nice to connect with you, and I'm like, अभी मैं क्या करूँ connect करके, आगे कुछ तो बोलो.
Exactly.
So मुद्दे की बात पे आओ, because that platform is meant for me to have a very crisp, direct conversation, and then that opens up a relationship. In an event, it's more like how do you break the ice so that the person is willing to spend time with you. You get the next meeting through that conversation.
Yep, I agree completely. अब इसमें एक बात बताओ, like I also remember when we were speaking last time when we had a breakfast meeting, I was very inspired by your stories meeting with Mr. Harsh Mariwala, Mr. Uday Kotak, etc. And all of these are like billionaires, and it's very difficult to maintain relationships with these kind of people is what I had initially thought. But आपका कैसा experience रहा है वो जानना है. So before that, how many billionaires would you have met in India or like in general?
I mean,
firstly,
I would, there's no count. I would also not classify the whole billionaire angle. मैं बोलूँगा like very successful, accomplished people. For me, like at some point, it's not the money, it's the person, their value system, and how they look at a business, how they build their entire story. But I've met tens of very, very successful people across the world.
Could you name some?
Would I name some? I think so. In India, I've met okay. There are so many, man. Like, but okay.
Which ones?
So I've met. I think the most interesting conversation I've had was with Mrs. Arundhati Bhattacharya. Okay. She was the chairman of SBI, now Salesforce. I've met Mr. Mariwala, who's one of the most humble and inspiring individuals ever. I've met with Mr. Sajan Jindal, who's actually one of the most passionate nation builders. I've never seen someone who's so passionate about the country and wants to change the world. I've in Israel, if I were to give you a sense, I've met the former head of Mossad, which was one of the most interesting conversations I've had. And yeah, I've met several politicians, celebrities, uh, and all these conversations never started with I have something to get from them. It was
Yeah.
just pure curiosity to learn and to share.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said you had most interesting conversation with Miss Arundhati Bhattacharya and the former head of Mossad. Can you throw some light? What were those conversations?
Um, so I bumped into Mrs. Bhattacharya on the flight. So we just happened to sit next to each other, and
She was the first chairperson of SBI, first women chairperson of SBI, right?
yes, yes. So we were sitting together. We started a conversation around the weather.
No, how did you start? Like you started that?
Yeah, the flight was somewhat shaky. There was a lot of turbulence, so we started talking about the weather. And
So how did you start this? I'm getting into a lot of details here, but I just want to know how did you start?
So I think I know where you're coming from. कि
Yeah.
many times हम लोग को समझ में नहीं आता कि
Exactly.
चालू कहाँ से करें.
हाँ,
right?
और डर लगता है कि कैसे करें first conversation. So how do you do that?
Actually, it's just as simple as saying a hi.
Okay.
ये मैंने बहुत बहुत बार सोचा है इस बारे में कि what stops people from having a conversation, and it has happened with me so many times कि actually 99% of the times that आपके बगल में जो बैठा है it seems like that person is not interested in having a conversation, but when you just say a hi, it opens up like that person is actually genuinely interested in having a conversation, and like you just spend 3 hours
Oh.
talking to them. And I've met if I just talk about the flight conversations, I've met some amazing people on the flight, CEOs of banks. One of the individuals I met was the CEO of Axis Bank, Mr. Amitabh Chaudhary, and we had an amazing conversation. I was going for my wedding, spent like good 2.5 hours talking about so many different things. He's also one of the most progressive CEOs in the banking ecosystem I've met. I was so inspired that being a CEO, he was so hungry to change and grow as an individual. To an extent, he was talking about his wealth products, and generally when you think of a CEO of a bank, you feel like they are very high level and they would not know about their core products. A bank is a massive entity.
Yeah.
But he was very passionate about his businesses, and he encouraged me to become a customer. And being a sales guy myself, I was like so inspired that a person of this level is personally showing me his credit card and bank account and how it works.
How do you maintain relationships and how do you keep in touch with these kind of people then?
So there are different ways, but generally, yeah, if you have something to offer to them which could be helpful to their work or their personal life, that's usually a very good way to be in touch. If you don't have a very specific agenda, it becomes harder.
Yeah.
Uh, because at some level, everyone has their own life and priorities. So you got to find that common connect on where do you align with them.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. And one more thing, like one question which a lot of people ask is like, there are some things which these people don't like or these people wouldn't prefer कि इस हिसाब से हुआ है. Like for example, some of the people don't like कि if you keep asking or you keep asking favors from them again and again, and that is something which will hinder the relationship in my opinion. Is there anything specific you have observed with these kind of people, that what is something that they don't like or what is something that they like that if you do it this way it would have been better?
Okay, so I think it depends on the situation. So for example, hiring is one area which is generally it's perceived as a favor, but it's actually a gift. So most of the successful people that you've met, they are hungry and desperate to find or hire smart people to grow their organization, right? Now if you sent me your resume and you want me to send it to say one of the who's of India, now you may feel that I am doing a favor on you, and the perception is that I'm taking a favor from that person. But in reality, I'm doing a favor on that person, because if you join that company, you would do so many good things, right? And that in a way is a gift. So it totally depends on how you see it as. But generally, if you're reaching out to these individuals and the framework is that this thing will help them, or that's the mindset, then it's naturally not a favor but a gift.
Yeah. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, hiring is a big problem.
Yes.
And in fact, I have been received a lot of calls from CXOs and even CFOs of these multinational companies. When they recruit chartered accountants, they request that if I can share it in my network and if I can help them get some talent. So I agree that it is a very big gift for them, because they literally have a lot of problems in hiring the smart talent to grow their organization.
Yeah, for every billionaire and any successful individual, the only thing they spend a lot of time on is attracting the best talent.
Yeah.
Right. So, by the way, that's one way I keep in touch. Since you asked, actually, to also adding to this, I also believe in the concept of power networks. So, one thing I really believe in is, if I'm meeting, one highly accomplished individual who's done everything in his life, I would look for someone else who can complement them, like who's also a very highly accomplished individual, and just connect them for a conversation. And I've often seen that it happens, it comes out in magical ways, where both of them benefit from each other. And the second is, I meet a lot of CEOs of large companies, and turns out that they are not happy with their current job and they are looking out. So if you connect a CEO level role to a multinational company leader, then that's also a very good fit, which you orchestrated.
Yeah.
So then people perceive you as someone who has a good understanding of people, and you can be of value to them to bring prosperity.
Yeah. Yeah. The power network concept is quite interesting.
Yes.
You just make two people meet who are highly accomplished, and then they'll also remember you because you made an introduction to a very successful person.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it with now it actually just comes naturally to me, because I feel like I said, enabling the enablers is the vision. So if two people meet and they benefit from each other, it just gives a sense of gratitude and happiness that you made it happen.
Right. Let's talk about money as well, which is also a core part of my podcast. Let's talk about your asset allocation strategies, or how much of your wealth is divided into which kind of asset class when it comes to managing money. So if you can just break it down in terms of percentages, what kind of wealth is allocated to stocks, startups, and what kind of asset classes do you invest in?
Yeah. I'll be honest, I've not the best allocation of, I've not done the best allocation of my wealth until recently. But, growing up, my philosophy was that I'm a risk taker. So I don't want to be very conservative in managing my wealth. So I will take high risk calls. So about 40 to 50% of my wealth is invested in startups. So I've invested in about 55 plus startups.
Oh, wow.
And 11 funds.
What is the average ticket size you invest in startups?
So it ranges from $10,000 to $200,000.
So 8 lakh rupees to 1.6 crore rupees. Like this is the range.
Yeah.
But isn't that a very broad range in the sense like 8 lakhs to 1.5
Yes. So 1.5 to 2 CRs would be in funds.
Okay. As a limited partner.
As an LP.
Okay.
And startups would be between 8 lakhs to say 50 lakhs or plus minus here and there.
Got it. And what is the total amount of money you have invested in startups?
Close to $2.5 million.
Got it. Fair. Which would be $2 million.
15 to 20 crores.
Got it.
Yes.
And what do you look for before investing in a startup?
So 3-4 key reasons for me to invest. One is, I generally look for companies that are solving a must-have problem than a good-to-have problem. and this is just from my personal experience, people don't want to pay big money for something which is good to have, but something which is a must have.
Can you give an example?
So some of the products that we've brought into India from Israel, and generally like perception is ki Indian companies won't pay the same prices for a software that you command in the US. Like expectation is ki 70% discount milega India mein. And I have brought so many software products and sold in India at the same prices they would command in the US. The key difference was, one, the product was super disruptive, so it is very hard to replicate. If that person is not using that product, then they are losing money. So how do you figure out a situation where it's a must have? Now losing money can be either through time or actual literal money. We've also sold products like that. And something where you can establish the ROI very clearly. कि अगर आप 20 रुपया charge कर रहे हो, can you deliver a value of 100 rupees to a customer? So must have is a very important angle that I look for, and especially in an economy like this where if you're not solving a real pressing need, people don't want to pay big bucks, right? Second thing, of course, the founders, which is now now that I've invested in so many companies, I realize that plays a very big role. The maturity of the founders, their thought process. And third, looking at the market they are catering to. So generally, I'm a believer of investing in products or categories which are going after global problems and not only a local problem, because that hedges your risk, in terms of the market size you're addressing. If one market is not operating, maybe the other is doing well, and that your company is always stable.
Yeah, got it. And this is, you said 40 to 50% of the investment allocation.
Yes.
And then what is the remaining 50%?
Rest is in public markets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Equities itself or mutual funds?
Equities.
Okay.
I have some mutual funds, but a small part. Equities also, I made a very conscious decision. So earlier when I started with stocks, I only started like during COVID. And luckily I made a lot of money in the first year. Everyone made money, and you got used to seeing 20% circuits every week. And then the second year I lost a lot of money. Almost all the gains I had in the first year I lost in the second year. And then I basically came to a fundamental thinking of finding stocks which you can hold on for a longer period of time and see a 4x, 5x, 10x return. And the interesting learning जो मुझे मिली उसमें कि startup investing का एक perception होता है कि this will just make you super rich very soon. At least India में ये बहुत बड़ा वो है कि startup investing is very cool and sexy and interesting. But I saw that अगर आप public markets में invest करते हो, and if you know how to do it well, you have the right advisors, you can generate very consistent returns, more than what a venture capital fund generates. The top quartile of the funds generate 15 to 20% IRR, where you have to block your money for 7 to 10 years, and you have so much on your head whether you will actually get that money or not, right? In public markets, everything is liquid. And even if you just track the Nifty for the last few years, it is giving you anywhere from 12 to 15% IRR, full liquid.
Yeah.
So the learning has been, you need to have the right balance of, investing in public markets versus startups. At some point, I was very, very aggressive on the startup space. Now it's much more balanced and healthier.
Yeah. No, I agree. So there are like both kinds of people. One who's an expert in public markets, stocks and all. They're also making 30-35% through futures and options,
Yes.
etc. And there are people who are very good in startup investing, where they make around like 10x returns also in 4 years or 5 years, depending on the startup investment. But what I have realized, although I'm not into angel investing because I've not made a lot of wealth in my life, but what I've realized is like angel investing or startup investing, unless you have the capital to invest in at least 50 startups, I don't think you should start angel investing. This is my opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But what happens is like out of 50, only 2 or 3 will give you those returns, which will compensate for the remaining 47. Even if let's say they don't give you anything, these 3 would just overpower and surpass all the 47 which will
Yeah.
go down is my thesis, which is similar in the VC ecosystem also. VCs would, let's say, invest, if they're investing in 10 startups, one or two would do very well, out of which like 7 or 8 would just either go bust or they would just return back the capital. This is what I have experienced.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is, why do you want to angel invest, right? I think a lot of people get very excited to do angel investing because it sounds cool without even understanding
Yeah.
what the company is doing.
They
right?
just want to write on their LinkedIn bio, angel investor.
Exactly. And I think that's the myth. I've had so many people who are in very traditional businesses and they just want to invest in a startup. कि startup में जहाँ लगा रहे हो पैसा लगाना है. And I just feel that so personally for me the reason to start investing was कि मैं इस कंपनी का सेल्स कर रहा हूँ. सो मुझे पता है कि कोरालॉजिक्स इज़ अ गुड कंपनी दैट डूइंग रियली वेल, और ट्राटा इज़ अ वेरी गुड कंपनी दैट इज़ डूइंग वेल. सो मुझे पता है कि वो प्रोडक्ट कैसा चल रहा है. आई हैव लॉट ऑफ डेटा अबाउट दैम, and when you know what sells, you are able to invest in it. Like Warren Buffett invested in Coca-Cola because he saw everyone's drinking Coca-Cola. That led me to invest in many companies. Of course, I also got carried away at some point where I invested in companies which I had no clue about. But it's very important to understand where you're investing. And hence, for people who want to do angel investing, I always tell them कि एक fund में पैसे डालो, because it's like a mutual fund concept. You hedge your risk. There's a professional fund manager. Although I would say finding a good fund manager is also an art. There are so many funds I've invested in, and you don't know how they will do. Some are doing really well, some are not. But in the key learning here is that how do you remain grounded and not carried away by all the noise out there?
So tell me one thing, like, have you invested in any company because of fear of missing out?
So many, actually. It's
I can see an interesting answer coming up because of your smile.
Startup industry में बड़ा common है FOMO, which is founders who know how to raise money. They would come and name drop, okay, these are the 5 people who've invested. And these names are such aspirational people that you feel like, okay, अगर इसने किया है तो कुछ अच्छा ही होगा. So you don't even think and invest. And when you actually ask these people, why did you invest? They're like, okay, we just had a 5-minute meeting and लगा कि कुछ interesting है तो invest कर दिया. So you're like, bro, I invested because I thought you've done your analysis. But बहुत सारे startups में invest किया. Some of them turned out to be scams. Some of them turned out to shut because they were just stories. There was nothing real about it.
How much money you have lost in these?
More than a crore.
Okay.
So far, I don't know how much more, but lost a bunch of money in investing out of just socially लगा कि हाँ इसमें करना चाहिए तो कर दिया. उस टाइम पे वो एक guts होना चाहिए to say no, because somewhere you start feeling कि हाँ ये तो बहुत ही अच्छी कंपनी है, like all these people have invested. लाइक एक मेटावर्स की कंपनी आई थी उस टाइम. मुझे लॉजिकली समझ में नहीं आ रहा था कि मेटावर्स पे MBA कैसे पढ़ाओगे. इट वाज जस्ट नॉट कनेक्टिंग. बट द पीपल हु स्टार्टेड द कंपनीज, दे हैड सच फैंसी बैकग्राउंड. मतलब बहुत फैंसी लोगों ने पैसे डाले, तो फिर लगा कि चलो कुछ ना कुछ होगा, उन्होंने सोचा होगा. टर्न्ड आउट कि मतलब इट वाज जस्ट अ फैड.
बंद हो गई वो कंपनी.
Founders split, then the other founder started, but no one knows exactly क्या हो रहा है. So it's a bit, bit tricky to actually not get carried away. In investing, because startups seem like they will generate insane return. There's a promise of like $1 billion valuations, but in reality is not always true, right? So fundamentals are very important.
What's the lesson you've learned? Like, do you regret? Do you feel bad that आपका इतना पैसा चला गया है in these startups? How do you tackle?
I don't regret it anymore. Sometimes I do compare कि अगर वो पैसे मैंने स्टॉक मार्केट्स में डाले होते पब्लिक मार्केट्स में एंड डिड अ रीजनेबल जॉब, लेट्स से अगर वो सेंसेक्स में भी पैसे डाले होते तो तेरा 14% तो मिल जाता. But you know, it's all a part of learning, growing up. You have to
Yeah.
take those calls. मैंने बहुत सारी कंपनी में पैसे डाले हैं जहाँ पे रिटर्न्स भी बहुत अच्छे आए.
Yeah.
You know, in fact,
What is the highest amount of return you have made in a startup
realized
investment? Huh?
5x in
Wow.
in 11 months.
Wow,
And,
5x in 11 months.
Yes, so this
My
was
God.
actually I've made in both, in 5x in one stock, in a public stock and a private stock, both.
Acha, okay.
The private one is interesting, but in particular because I'm so connected with Israel. Every single day I would meet someone and they'll ask me this question: so how's your work getting affected with the war with Israel? And you know, one of the companies I had invested in, the 11 months 5x return, they got acquired literally 10 days after the war broke out in Israel. And it was a very good exit. I made a very good return.
Yeah. How much money you had invested?
I'd invested about $20,000, I think.
Got it.
And
Which is 16 lakhs
yes,
rupees.
yeah. So the point I'm making is that you know, there are good scenarios and
Yeah.
bad scenarios. Generally in the startup world, when people invest, they think कि हाँ चलो अभी invest कर दिया. Like I personally never account for that money to ever come back.
Yeah.
Like if you talk to me about my net worth, I would never even consider that money that I've invested as my net worth. I forget that it will ever come.
Stocks वाले में भी 16 lakhs ही डाले थे क्या आपने? वो 5x जो हो गया था.
हाँ, उसमें I think I put more like 30 lakhs.
Oh wow.
हाँ, तो
उसका भी
returns-
5x. 11 months में कौन सा स्टॉक था ये?
as
5x वाला?
Transformers Rectifiers
अच्छा.
something limited.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean in the last 2 years there have been many public market stocks that have done amazing multipliers. So any public sector stock that you think of, I've invested in Hutco, which generated like amazing returns, TRIL, NBCC. So it was just a function of, you know, having the conviction on the story and, you know, going long on it.
Yeah. No, I think that also comes with your experience of running Onnivation, I feel, like where you identify the best companies who
Yes.
can work with Indian conglomerates, and your skill of identifying the best is also replicated in identifying the best public market stocks or best private startups, I feel.
Yeah. So one lever that, like, if I were to tell you like the two banks I'm most excited about in India, and this is just generally my conversation with the CEOs I've met personally. One is Axis Bank and IDFC Bank. Now there is one lever which is how their core business is doing, which I've not gone deep on. But let's say if they were doing very well from an economic standpoint, I would definitely invest in those companies, knowing that the fact that the CEOs are extremely progressive. Like these two banks, you know, they've really gone a mile ahead when it comes to technology, innovation, most importantly, the mindset to adapt and change, right? So even when I look at a public sector company, I would just go by basics of, you know, is the promoter driven enough, has the right energy to drive change, are they in a sector which is growing, and then, you know, invest in them.
Yeah, got it. Let's talk about the power of compounding also, by the way. How much time did it take for you to make your first rupees 1 crore, and how much time did it take for you to make the next rupees 1 crore?
I think when I started Onnivation, the first crore came in the first 2 years, I would say. And after that, it was like almost every 6 months to 1 year.
Got it. No, I'm asking in life in general, like before Onnivation also. So, मतलब कितने साल लगे होगे to reach to make your first 1
Okay.
CR?
So I made my first 1 CR, I think, in 2019.
Okay.
This is almost like after, say, 2011, I finished my CA. So 8 years it took me to get to that
Wow.
number, my working life. And after that, it's been like compounding fairly
Right.
quickly.
Got
Yeah.
it. And in terms of, let's say, the kind of like lifestyle which anyone is living in this kind of a vicinity, what would be the typical monthly expenses, and how does that range?
Monthly expenses can anywhere, again, it depends on
Yeah,
individual
yeah.
to individuals, but monthly expenses can anywhere be between 15 to 20 lakhs a month, uh, depending on how you spend your life and splurge.
And this would
Uh,
include rentals would be the majority. uh,
yes, rentals or EMIs
mm,
would be the majority.
okay, and the
Yeah.
other how much would be the proportion?
So I think 50% is usually the rentals,
Okay.
and then the other expenses of how you live your life, the travel, food, everything under the sun.
Got it.
Yeah.
Fair. I also remember like when I was interacting with you last time when we met at the breakfast, you were saying that you used to be a very confused person. आप मतलब पहले बहुत confused रहते थे and you didn't used to take decisions very quickly. But after I talk to you right now, I get to know you've taken a lot of bold and audacious decisions in your life. Like decision like quitting your marketing agency and then just figuring out कि क्या करना है. Like although you were making good money in that marketing agency, so what is your process of decision making and how has it improved over time?
So one of the things that really helped me in decision making is I stopped using the word try.
Okay, how does that help?
See, whenever you use the word try, you're basically either saying you don't want to go in your mind, or you just don't know the answer and you're dragging the answer. You want more time to think. So when you don't use the word try, subconsciously you have to say something, and then you have to decide what to say. So you kind of move to a decision. So if we decided that we will do a podcast at 3 p.m. today, I could have said, Kushal, I would try to do it. Instead, we agreed on a time and we made it happen. So we didn't drag it. But there are many situations in life where we are constantly saying, I will try to go for this dinner, do this meeting, or I will try to, help someone. Why do you want to try to help someone? Either you help
Yeah,
someone or you don't help someone, right?
yeah.
So that helps me make decisions in a big way, and much before I don't end up spending or wasting time on taking decisions.
Got it.
So that's one. The other piece that has been very helpful is when you take decisions, you're always thinking about the downside of taking that decision. I'll give you a very interesting example of this. Do you have credit cards
Yeah,
with? Okay. Do you share your credit card pin with anyone ever? Have you ever shared
No,
your credit card pin?
I've not shared it with anyone, but with one of my close friends when he wanted to use it, I guess. Only that time.
Okay.
But not more
Okay.
than that.
So my credit card pins are with my maid and my cook and my driver
Okay.
and my EA. And
That's
you know,
scary now.
when I share with my friends, they find it's scary and they
Yeah.
call me crazy. कि ऐसे कौन करता है? But then I looked at the upside and the downside of this. The upside is that every time my driver needs to go to the petrol pump to fill the petrol, I don't need to be present. He can just do it. Or, some groceries need to be bought or some payment needs to be done. They are able to do it. What is the downside? If there is something that goes wrong, maximum there's a credit limit that goes for a toss. But in all these years I've done it, it has never happened, right? We always overestimate what could go wrong with a situation. But if I just look at the upside of it, I saved so many hours of my life by not going to a petrol pump or not, swiping my card or entering the pin. This is a very basic example, but if we just look at life and any decision, if you only go by the whole concept of there is an upside to this decision, 95% of the time you'll see that it is in a good way versus wasting time on doing things where you feel there could be a downside. So these two things have been very
Also, I think there is an element of trust which we also need to have on people we are working with, and we are also taking a bet in a manner with all these people. So trust तो करना पड़ेगा कभी ना कभी. To what extent we need to trust is something that is a question which needs to answer. But आपके केस में जैसे you trusted your maid, driver and cook and all of them, and then you and they also showed that faith because you had that faith in them. So वो एक risk लेना तो करना पड़ेगा ये मेरे हिसाब से. Otherwise, if you don't trust someone, then you won't be able to build something in the future.
Yeah, I had a very interesting learning. Remember, I said you're the average of 5 people you're surrounded by,
yeah.
and one conversation I attracted was a conversation with Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, who was the former CEO of Unilever.
Yeah, he stays in this building only,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
So I was asking him, how do you build such a strong culture within Unilever and get your team to drive such amazing outcomes? And what he said really struck with me, and it actually became a monumental learning for me to implement on a daily basis. He said that normally when we give a task to an employee, to someone in your team, you are always saying that first you deliver, then I trust you to do more. Correct? Is that the mindset?
Yeah.
कि पहले तुम ये करो, फिर मैं और सोचूंगा कि whether I trust you or not. Versus he says that when I am giving something to someone, I'm already saying that I already trust you.
Yeah.
I already trust you. Go and do it. Just imagine the person getting the task. Like when I'm giving my credit card to my driver, he himself is already under pressure that someone's trusted me and I need to deliver, right? Or my employee, someone has already trusted me, my boss has trusted me. I can't fail, because people don't want to be in a position where they are, they're not trusted, right? So that starts with a very positive mindset, then a mindset where you're asking someone to prove their capabilities.
Yeah. You again mentioned about the average of 5 people. I want to go deeper into this again. So, are there any hacks or are there any things that you do in your lifestyle which makes you meet these 5 people and then you become the average of these 5 people?
Yeah, as much as it is a saying or average of 5 people, you got to also take the steps to, attract those 5 people around you.
Yeah.
So I feel very blessed that I have some amazing friends who are also like my life coaches. My wife, who's like my coach in a way. But one of the things is, when I looked at the average of 5, I moved from Calcutta to Bombay. Suddenly, the kind of conversations I had were much more progressive, more driven. When I moved to Bombay, I was manifesting that I would move to this building. And when I got a chance, I became capable to, afford a place like this. I actually moved. Now, this building ended up having some amazing people. So when you're walking in the garden, you just attract great people and the conversations are quality. I'm not saying it's necessarily from a work standpoint, but just for you to become as a better individual, right? I spoke about the conferences. So I would make an attempt to get access to events and conferences which are very hard to get to. And I've been to some of the most, exclusive events in the world where you would find the billionaires of, the world. And something as basic as like I made a decision that I would only travel business class. Because, the few examples I gave, I was there and I bumped into these people coincidentally, and it was like totally worth it. And once when I did not travel, I saw what I missed out, because I would have been sitting to the, with the CEO of one of the largest companies in India. So I was like, it's not worth it, because it's almost like a mini MBA. You just attract the best people going there, sitting in those seats. And I've not done an MBA, so those 2 hours of conversation with a CEO of a bank is as good as doing a semester of an MBA.
I agree. That's a very, very positive mindset. And like people usually think that मैं इतना खर्चा नहीं करूँगा, मैं business class में नहीं जाऊँगा. But other way to look at it is that you never know. I mean, one of the conversations or one of the meetings can just change your life, and that can be like infinite ROI. You can't even calculate that. So that's a very good mindset to have.
Yeah. In fact, I would also add, like at some point it used to be an ROI thing, and then I realized it's also a lifestyle change, it's also a lifestyle change which pushes you to think more of yourself. That it pushes you to work harder and be more ambitious.
Yeah.
Learn how to optimize your time and do high quality work.
Yep, I agree. What would be like one craziest thing that you would have done in your life? There are a lot of things you mentioned in the last couple of hours, but what is something very crazy that you have done?
Uh, I mean, there are many, but one thing that stands out for me as a life experience is at some point when I was figuring out my entire work scene, I had to meet a lot of people, and there's wine, dine. You take people out for lunches and dinners, and I was out with an official from, from a work standpoint, and then I remembered that. I had one credit card which was almost maxed out. There was only 2,400 rupees in the account.
Huh.
So, and that was all I had. So, literally 2,400 रुपए. And उस time हम एक restaurant में गए to have dinner. And I was supposed to pay. So, when we sat, I was like, it was supposed to be a light thing, but ended up ordering. And at some point I was mentally calculating कि ये 2,400 से ज़्यादा नहीं हो जाए. The whole time it was not about the dinner on the work. It was only about कि वो bill ज़्यादा हो जाए मैं कहाँ से pay करूँगा. And the difference was we reached a point where if there was one more roti ordered, then I was just thinking all crazy things कि अभी how do I do it? And then we actually ended up ordering that one extra roti. So I had to step out of my, the restaurant, call my brother and like, just transfer some money. So he transferred right there, and then I was able to, pay that bill.
How much was the bill finally?
It was 2,700 rupees.
Oh, 300 extra.
300 extra. Yeah. But that was a very crazy situation that, many times flashes in my mind. But yeah, I mean, it was something like I was determined कि मुझे, I want to make things happen. Yeah. That dinner was just very important.
And you couldn't ask the person, आप 300 रुपए भर दो मैं 2400 रुपए भर देता हूँ.
Of course. So.
That's a good one actually. That's an interesting story as well. I don't know if I have any interesting story in my life, but maybe in the future. One last question. This is a tricky one, and this is something which I ask to all my guests. If you were in the shoes of Kushal and if you were interviewing Saket, what is that one question which you would like to ask him towards the end of the interview?
So one thing I would ask myself is, what makes me really happy?
Okay, so let's answer that also. What makes you happy?
I've gone through a lot of exercise to figure out that one thing that gives me a lot of happiness is the people around me. People with positive energy, people with curiosity, and just seeing people around me grow. So grow as an individual, personally, professionally. To an extent, if I can be of a value add to someone's personal growth, when my Nana ji, who's my mentor, he taught me one thing कि दूसरों की सफलता में ही तुम्हारी सफलता है. And that has really struck with me. Whenever I do something for myself versus when I do something for others, when I do something for others, that happiness is a different level altogether. Like recently, there was a security guard in our building, and every time me and my wife, we would go down to go somewhere, he would be watching something on his phone, and it always was a Shark Tank episode.
Wow.
So one day we asked him like, what do you want to do? And he's like, मेरे को कुछ करना है, सीखना है. And just last month he joined our company.
Oh, wow.
In
That's
the finance
so lovely.
team. So that feeling of helping someone realize their potential really touched me as a person. Yeah. So yeah, it's a deeper question to ask is, what keeps you going on a daily basis? Yeah. Not that one big happiness, but that small thing that keeps small things that make you happy every day, because that's the most important thing that keeps you going.
Yeah, no, that's a very deep and powerful answer. A very inspirational story of the guard joining your company in the finance team, and a lot of lessons to take from these incidents as well. But thank you so much for doing this. It was amazing talking to you, And
Likewise.
we're very proud of a chartered accountant who's doing so well in his life and such unconventional things. So kudos to you for inspiring us. And I had an amazing time. I have learned that I should network more. I should attend more events in my life. But thank you so much. Had an amazing time and wish you the best.
No, thank you, Kushal, for doing this. You're also inspiring so many people by bringing the best stories together. So really appreciate you hosting me.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
आई होप आपको वैल्यू मिली होगी ये वीडियो से. अगर आपको थोड़ी सी भी वैल्यू मिली होगी तो आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू शेयर दिस वीडियो विद एटलीस्ट वन फ्रेंड यू नो, सो दैट दे ऑल्सो कैन गेट अ लॉट ऑफ इनसाइट्स फ्रॉम दिस. एंड प्लीज लेट अस नो कि आपको कौन से पार्ट सबसे ज्यादा पसंद आए, आपको कौन से पार्ट बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आए, एंड आपको कौन से टाइप के गेस्ट चाहिए, एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस यू वांट अस टू आस्क ऑल दीज गेस्ट, सो दैट वी गिव यू द मोस्ट पॉसिबल वैल्यू इन द शॉर्टेस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. थैंक यू so much for watching this video. Do let us know in the comment section about the feedback for the same, and stay tuned for more episodes of Conversation with Kushal.